Let's transition now to the running back waiver wire and some guys that we're looking to add here. You know the name at the top of the list. That's Elijah Mitchell. So we told you about the fab percentage that you want to spend. At least 20%, could be as high as 50%. I don't know if you want to go much north of that, but if you are first on waivers, he should be the first guy added. Now, we usually talk about players that are rostered in 65% of leagues or fewer. Nyheim Hines is at the cutoff, but I think it's mostly PPR leagues. So 10-team leagues, PPR, you can look to add him. I think he's got some clearly long-term appeal, especially after getting 15 total touches in week 1 against the Seahawks. Now, the next two names might be a little surprising given that Mark Ingram is 5th. But Tony Jones and Kenneth Gainwell, I think, not only have some short-term appeal as some flex plays, but the long-term appeal, I think, is what you're looking at with them. If something happens to Alvin Kamara or Miles Sanders, respectively, those two guys could be superstars. Whereas Mark Ingram, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, this was probably his best game. 26 carries, over 80 yards rushing, and a touchdown. They don't get the Jaguars again until week 15. I doubt we're going to see many games where Mark Ingram has this much fantasy success without falling into the end zone, especially with no catches. So of the guys on this list, is there anything that's out of whack here with this order?
I think the only thing you need to consider is if you're desperate for a running back this week to start on your team and you don't want to overspend for Mitchell and Hines is already taken in your league, do you take Mark Ingram ahead of Jones and Gainwell? And I think you've got to at least think about it if you need somebody for this week. But other than that, I'm totally with you on all this. Just don't spend too much on Elijah Mitchell. You know what Kyle Shanahan's all about with those running backs.
And keep an eye if Latavius Murray is available. He's at 68%, so in some 10-team leagues he could be out there, so you might want to go and pick him up. The running backs to drop for this week, and again, there's some name value to some of these guys, but Zach Moss, a healthy scratch. You could probably move on from him. Philip Lindsey, part of the backfield trio there with Mark Ingram and David Johnson, and Le'Veon Bell not playing. 60% is just way too high. So, Heath, any of these guys that you consider keeping, or are you moving on from all of them?
I just almost am a little bit more interested in Le'Veon after watching the running backs play last night, just to see what happens at practice this week. The other two I'm fully on board with. All
right, so we'll see what happens with Moss, Lindsey, and Le'Veon Bell moving forward. Let's go now to the trade conversation here as part of Fantasy Football Today. Again, you can check out the trade chart on CBSSports.com. So, the running back to trade for, Dave, you're saying it's James Robinson. Not good.
No, terrible
against the Texans.
And I think people are going to panic sell him. They took him in round 3. They expected a lot more work, and they didn't get it from him in this game. I think that's one thing that Jacksonville can try and correct is find ways to get him the ball. And admittedly, they're going to find ways to get Carlos Hyde the ball a little bit too. Yeah. But I still think that he's a good player. He's just stuck on a team that looked terrible against Houston. They're eventually going to turn it around. If you can give up in non-PPR, DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, maybe even Julio Jones, I would give up those guys to get James Robinson if you need a running back this week.
No, I'm not doing that. Can I wait until next week? Can I just let him play the Broncos?
If you think after Denver he's going to be bad, then his value will be even lower.
Then I don't have to give up DJ Moore anymore. Yeah, I don't have any confidence in Urban Meyer to do the things that they should do, and I don't have any confidence they're going to be competitive enough in games to where James Robinson's going to get 15 carries ever. So I'm worried.
I'm very worried too. And no, this is a guy that after Travis Etienne, we all got much more excited about, and Urban Meyer still sticking with Carlos Hyde. We just need to have that experiment over, and James Robinson go back to, let's rewind the clock, go back to 2020 where he was leading the backfield in touches for the Jaguars. Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.